It started with one sip. One sip I never wanted, of a drink I didn't choose. On a night that wasn't even about me. It was supposed to be Lily's night. Her 21st birthday. A celebration. But somewhere between the champagne smiles and clinking glasses, that night turned into something else. Something I can't forget. There were 5 of us. Me, Lily, and 3 other women. Ages 21 to 26. We've known each other long enough to memorize the rhythm of each other's jokes, to fill in each other's sentences. But that night, I realized something terrifying. You can know someone and not be safe with them. We sat down at this high-end restaurant Lily picked for her birthday. Fancy lighting, pressed tablecloths, the kind of place that brings out wine menus before water. And right away, she smiled at me with that excited birthday sparkle in her eyes. "Come on, you have to get a drink. You're the only one not drinking." And just like that, it began. I smiled and shook my head. I don't drink. It wasn't new information. They knew that about me. I've always been the one with sparkling water in a room full of mimosas. Not because of trauma, not because of religion, just because I don't want to. But that answer didn't land. Instead, it opened the door. Another friend chimed in, then another. "It's just one drink. Live a little. You've got to try something. It's a celebration." And Lily leaned in again, trying to sound playful, but now with an edge. She suggested a cocktail. "This one's for beginners," she said, like she was offering me a starter pack into their world. I said no again, firmer this time. But they wouldn't let it drop. It became this 5-minute tug of war. Words against will. Pressure against peace. And at some point, the waiter came by and was sent away. Twice. Because I hadn't said yes yet. That's when the panic started building. Not loud. Quiet. Subtle. Like the beginning of a storm that hasn't broken yet. I'm not good under pressure. I never have been. I grew up learning that silence keeps the peace, that a smile can hide the collapse. So when 5 voices are all telling me I'll like something I've said I don't want, my body freezes. And eventually, I said yes. Not because I changed my mind, because I couldn't breathe. Lily ordered the drink. Some fruity thing she said I'd like. It came with a tiny umbrella and a promise that this was just for fun. I took one sip, and I hated it. It was exactly what I said it would be. Too strong, too bitter, too not me. I set it down. They nudged me to keep trying, told me I'd get used to it, but I didn't. And they finally moved on. Dinner continued. Food came. Laughter returned. But I wasn't laughing. Not really. Because something had cracked inside me. When the bill came, I made it clear. I paid for my meal. I separated the drink from my total. And that's when the mood shifted. They asked why I didn't include the drink. I said, simply, because I didn't want it. Because they begged me. Because I said no, over and over, and they didn't listen. And Lily, on her birthday, had the audacity to say, "You could have just said no." I looked at her, and I felt something inside me break completely. Because I did say no. I said no 5 times, and they didn't stop. I told her I wouldn't be paying for something they pressured me into ordering, something they wanted, not me. The argument started quietly, then escalated. Voices were hushed, but sharp. I heard phrases like, "It's just a drink," and "You're being dramatic." But all I could hear in my head was my own voice, the one that said no, the one they silenced. So I got up. I stood in the middle of the table, surrounded by people I thought were friends, and I walked out. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I walked out of that restaurant and into the street. And as I stood outside, I pulled out my phone, sent Lily the exact amount for my dinner, and wrote one sentence. If no one was going to pay for the drink, then you shouldn't have begged me to get it. That night, I didn't sleep. The text messages started before I even got home. First one, then two, then four. Group chats, individual messages, guilt, confusion, accusation. You embarrassed her on her birthday. You could have handled that differently. You made a scene. But none of them said, I'm sorry we pressured you. None of them said, I should have listened when you said no. My husband listened, though. He listened to the whole story, every word, every pause. And he told me something simple. You're not in the wrong. And you need to distance yourself from people who think they get to decide your boundaries for you. I keep thinking about that because this wasn't just about a drink. It was about respect. It was about consent. It was about how 5 women who should have known better, teamed up to convince me I was wrong about my own body, my own choices, my own values. And when I didn't comply right away, they pushed harder. And when I finally did, they expected me to pay for the damage. And now, here I am, wondering, not about the bill, not about the drink, but about myself, about my worth, my voice, my place in this group that no longer feels like home. So, am I the asshole? For not paying for a drink I never wanted, for walking out when no one would listen, for finally saying no in the only way that got heard? Or is it possible that saying no should have been enough? This one hits deep, because this wasn't about alcohol. Not really. It was about a boundary and what happens when people ignore it. It's so easy to look at peer pressure like something that belongs to middle school lunch tables. But the truth is, it follows us into our 20s, into our relationships, even into birthday dinners at fancy restaurants. The voice inside you that says no is there for a reason. It's not weak. It's not dramatic. It's not inconvenient. It's sacred. And anyone who tries to shout over that voice doesn't deserve your silence or your apology. This story reminds us that no doesn't have to be justified. It doesn't need a backstory, a defense, or a debate. It just needs to be respected. And if it's not, then maybe walking out isn't rude. Maybe it's necessary. So tell us in the comments, have you ever been pressured into something you didn't want? And if so, how did you find your voice again? This has been AITA Stories. Subscribe for more. And remember, the truth always sounds like courage the first time you say it out loud.